I want to say something. I was following this Arab veterinarian who seems really talented. He lives in South Africa. He talks about how much he cares about animals. Now he posted a video saying how he's very upset about what's happening in Gaza. Very upset would be an understatement to how I feel about what is happening in the Middle East and in the world. People who should be denounced are not denounced. Collectively calling people innocent is a little bit naive. I don't think children and babies should be even in the equation, but children and babies, contrary to animals, we can rescue. Like a lot of animals are rescued from Gaza. I see so many dogs that have been rescued by the IDF and are brought here to Israel. Puppies, cats, whatever. And they're brought to Israel. But why are we not rescuing babies and children? The answer is quite clear. Children and babies belong to their parents. Animals are stray. Dogs and cats also should belong to families, but we don't know who they belong to. But children, you can't just take a child from Gaza and rescue the child. Otherwise, I think we would do it. That would be called kidnapping. You don't take a child away from their parents. But when their parents fail to be responsible adults, and when they dig tunnels, and instead of using it to protect their children as you would expect them to, because, hey, this is not the first time you have a war, and when you shoot rockets at people, you can't expect them to just lay there and die, especially not a sophisticated, educated culture as in Israel. And they didn't discriminate. They shot Muslims just as much as Jews, and they executed family dogs in front of their children, and they do not hesitate to do so. And when I say they, collectively calling them the innocent people of Gaza, it's hard for me to differentiate because, there is a terrorist regime and you hope that not everybody agrees with them. But on the other hand, I see there's no end to this terror regime. And I don't see any children being placed out of harm's way in tunnels. What I see in tunnels are the starved hostages. So people speaking as humanitarian, whether it's Madonna or a Muslim raised gay veterinarian from South Africa, or an Israeli person, a leftist Israeli person, claiming that they care so much about the people of Gaza. Well, it's not about caring about the people of Gaza. It's about denouncing the choices the people of Gaza have made. It's denouncing their choices, even if you don't have the ability to fight terrorist jihadist regime that took over Gaza. You do have a choice as a parent to think. Even animals, I'm not saying even is not a good word, animals, basic instincts of animals is to protect their young. And the innocent people of Gaza don't even have that. Because I can't rescue babies and children of Gaza even if I wanted to. And trust me, I would love to rescue the babies and children of Gaza. I would love to, but they belong to their parents. And their parents have decided that they shall have the fate of death. Their parents have decided that instead of being in underground shelters, they will not be in underground shelters, but starved hostages and weapons will be. They decided that for their babies and children. They decided to join in the macabre dance around the the coffins of dead babies and children strangled by the innocent people of Gaza. They decided to join in. They decided to play the game of we're starved when I don't see that they're starved. There's so much humanitarian help being brought to them. I don't see that they're being starved when you have so much humanitarian help. You have so much food going in there. And they have a choice. They can just release the hostages. Today, they can release the hostages for Shabbat. They can release them now. There are not only Jews being held there, by the way. They can release the hostages, they can stop starving them, they can stop filming them in this grotesque propaganda. And if they're starving, how come they have energy to make these Nazi-like documentaries of an Israeli hostage that was kidnapped from a film festival, starved, and forced to dig his own grave? If you're starving, you don't have energy to do that, do you? If you care about your children, you're not busy filming hostages that are skin and bones digging their own graves. If you're starving, you still can protect your children, but they don't. There's not one child they protect. And as for all those people that care, why don't you take one child, one baby? You know, during the Holocaust, there were people taking in Jewish babies and children, and the parents didn't mind as long as their children survive. But we don't see that in Gaza. We don't see that anyone cares for the children, and that they expect the whole world to feel sorry for them when they have a choice. Release the hostages. Stop threatening Israel. Stop the war against Israel. Release the hostages. First of all, release the hostages, and then it will end. But I'm not responsible for protecting somebody else's child, even in my neighborhood. If somebody decides to let their child run in the street and get hit by a car, that is not my responsibility. And the same thing in Gaza. It is not my responsibility when parents decide to raise their children in a war zone, when they know damn well that the war will end the minute they release the hostages and stop making those disgusting, grotesque films. Yes, maybe it's not all of them are doing it, but you know what? All you have to do is place pressure on the people that are your leaders. All you have to do is stop cooperating, because holding hostages in secret places demands collaboration. And if there was no collaboration, and these are journalists and doctors, this is what we know from hostages that were released. These are ordinary people and above average educated people that are keeping the hostages hidden, because they're using them as bargaining chips to release from prisons mass murderers, that one of them was released and was responsible for the October 7th massacre. There is no denouncement of the massacre. There is no sorry, I murdered your children. No. But, pity parties for people who don't even care about their own children. I think there is no lower form of life than people who don't care about their own children, who don't seek to protect them and seek to save them from a war zone reality. We didn't choose this war. We didn't ask for it. And I think it's quite grotesque that a veterinarian, a person who's supposed to save animal lives, isn't aware of the mass executions of family pets, farm animals. Why did they have to kill cows in the kibbutz? What did the cows ever do to them? What did the family dog of the Bibas family ever do to them? What did those poor babies and children that they executed and murdered and filmed? What did these women whom they raped did to them? What did the Druze in Syria ever do to them? These are the same type of jihadist terrorists. So anytime you express sorrow for what's happening in Gaza without expressing sorrow for the fact that they're not willing to release the hostages, that they're not willing to stop the war against Israel, then you are actually part of the problem. This is my conclusion. Whether you're Israeli, left-leaning communist, whether you are a gay South African Arab veterinarian, whether you are Madonna or, I don't know, with some kind of movie star or rock star, so long as you don't phrase the real problem in Gaza, the unwillingness of them to release the hostages and stop the war against Israel and stop threatening with another October 7th massacre, and their lack of willingness to face responsibility on the massacre of October 7th, and their declaration that they're going to do it again and again, the minute you stop denouncing the real cause of the problem, you are part of the problem. Right, Sam?
I don't want to hear about it.
You're right. So I can't understand it. As a pet owner and as a mother, the first thing I would do is protect my beloved ones. And if there was a regime that was holding hostages and not caring that my children were being murdered or killed because there's a war going on. And what are the soldiers really doing there? Are they coming there to massacre the Palestinian people? No, they're not. They're there to release the hostages and to destroy the terror infrastructure so cleverly built from the EU money, UN money, and all those people who felt sorry for them for years. They've built an underground system that is second to none. Not even the underground of London is not even near it. And very, very complex underground tunnel system, which makes it nearly impossible to find the hostages. And they're not willing to let go. There's only 20 hostages left, and there's some bodies that they're kidnapped of hostages. 20 hostages nearly starved to death. And then they play the game where they point the finger, accusing Israel of the very things that they do. And it's not only Israel, it's Jews all over the world that are being targeted. It's Jews being hit in Montreal. It's Jews being threatened and being abused and being given the responsibility, which is really the responsibility of the so-called innocent people of Gaza. So stop the BS, respect my intelligence, and stop the propaganda, because it's only harming the babies and the children of Gaza who really are innocent. They didn't come to the world wanting to be taught a racist Nazi ideology that they should kill the Jews in Israel and blah, blah, blah. The entire Middle East is occupied or settled or whatever you want by Arabs. 99.9% of the Middle East is Arab. But they don't even tolerate Druze occupying a small little place in Syria. This is their ideology that they're being brainwashed into believing. And that is abuse. That is worse. When you kill a person's soul, it's worse than killing their bodies. And that's what have been doing. Because how do you explain people are willing to do the horrific acts of terror, to kill a dog or a cat? For what? This is exactly what the Nazis did. They killed animals just because they were owned by Jews. And I'm just thinking how anyone can think that that's not child abuse. But then there's silence. There is silence, and silence, as we know, is agreeing to what is being done. They don't mind those humanitarian, gay, Arab, South African veterinarian or Madonna or musicians. They don't care that the poor babies and children of Gaza are being taught that they should kill and they should be martyrs and they should sacrifice their lives and they should kill anyone who's not exactly a jihadist. They don't mind that. No, that doesn't matter to them. That doesn't bother their soul. They don't even care that people like that are actually living as neighbors in their countries, in the UK or in Australia. They don't mind the people that actually talk against what the Western world holds as values of freedom, of equality. They don't mind that those people speak absolutely against it and for their declared intentions of destroying and killing people, the infidels and the people that don't agree with them. That doesn't bother them. But it bothered them that these Israeli soldiers who have been deeply wounded by what's going on, deeply wounded, and don't want to be there, but if they're not there, the terrorists are right here, because that's what would have happened on October 7th. Their goal was to come into Israel, to come in and massacre and rape and kidnap every woman, men, children, babies, and animals. And what did the animals ever do to them? Have you heard of an IDF soldier coming and shooting an animal in the head just so you can terrorize the owners? Have you heard of IDF soldiers executing and raping babies? No, but the jihadists do that. So why don't you point the finger in the right direction? And as you sit there in your living room denouncing everything in Gaza, why don't you think about what is the cause? What is the cause of what's happening in Gaza? And not the fictional propaganda. And when you think about being starved, I've never heard one word when the people in Sudan was starving. You call yourself humanitarian who don't care, who care about people regardless of their ethnic origin. Then where were you speaking up when still now Sudan there are babies being starved, and Yemen has hundreds of thousands of babies starving? Oh, but that doesn't matter. No, that doesn't matter. As long as Israel cannot protect itself, that's what matters. We don't want Israel protecting itself. And yes, the price is very ugly because the people of Gaza are unwilling to protect their children and babies, unwilling to do something. Any basic animal, even a cockroach, even an insect will protect its youngs, but not the people of Gaza. No, they will film the hostages, starve them, mock them, and glorify the abuse of people. And then they gain the empathy and the compassion in the hearts of people around the world. This is beyond understanding. This is beyond any comprehension. You can denounce the way the children and babies in Gaza are being treated, but you should also denounce the very people who do that to them, their own families and their own people, and all of those people who sympathize with the people who abuse their own children.